This is Bua.
Hey, Mr. Bua, this is David Williams from Untapped Hip Hop.
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Yourself?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Just running a bath for my daughter, but my wife's going to be putting her in the bath in a minute, so we're good.
Okay, for sure. You want me to call back at any other time, or?
No, we're good.
Okay,
go ahead, man.
Okay, for sure. I just wanted to start by thank you again for allowing us to interview for our magazine.
Absolutely.
For sure. And it's not going to take too long. It's about 12 questions, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you're a busy man, and
it's all good.
For sure. Pretty much the first question is who you are, where you're from, and what you do, and then we kind of get the ball rolling like that, and we'll just go into the meat of the interview.
Okay, well, who I am, that's a great question. I think about that every day.
Hey.
That's one of those existential realities where you have to rethink who you are all the time. But I'm originally from New York City, born on the Upper West Side, what we like to call the Upper Best Side of New York City. I come from a time and a place where things were a little bit more raw and clandestine, and we were kids that really navigated the world unbridled by parental supervision, and I was at some of the critical nascent moments of the early burgeoning hip-hop culture.
It was a different time back then where like you can stay outside as long as you really wanted, or go out and explore your area and stuff, right?
Exactly. It's something I would never allow my daughter to do now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Definitely
it's
understand.
Like when she's like, I'm going downtown, I'm like, why? Well, what are you doing? Where are you going? Well, you have your drop me a pin, make sure your GPS is working. I'm all, because it's a different time. And I feel like the times aren't really as different as the information that's filtered through is different. So we have much more awareness of how crazy the world is, as opposed to when we were kids. You didn't realize the world was crazy, because in New York City we had Son of Sam, we had Charlie Chopoff, we had a lot of really weird serial perverts and killers, but we didn't really recognize that. Plus, I'm a latchkey kid from a single working mom. I had no dad, so the parental supervision was at a minimum.
I hear you. I definitely hear you. That's wild, man. That's wild. What was it that I guess pushed you through that threshold of becoming an artist? Rather than becoming like an engineer or something else. What was it that pushed you to be like, what, I'm an artist and I'm going to claim that title?
Well, I was very observant, I feel, in many ways. I was a dancer, I was a writer, I was a poet. I did many artistic things, but the one thing that I kept coming back to was my drawing and painting, because I always wanted to be great. And I thought my grandfather was an artist, my mom was a painter as well, and I felt like that was the purest form of who I was in many ways, because whatever we do as artists, whether you're playing an instrument, or you're writing a song, or you're painting, it's still an iteration of you. The spirit and essence of you is captured in that art. You're just plugging yourself into it. Now, you might not be as articulate in one medium as you are in another, but it's still you. It's like if you speak to me in English, this is you. But if you speak to me in a second language, it's you, but it's a lower vibrational you, because you're not able to articulate yourself as eloquently. So it's something that I knew early on, that I had to have a skill set in order to be an able, articulate dialectician, and to translate the complexity of my visual language, which was very complex, I thought. And I knew early on, like, how do you take this concept, this idea, this construct, and make it into a visual form? It's a very weird thing to think about, but I was thinking that way.
That's wild.
And, and I knew that, like, if I were to pursue music, perhaps I could be great at it, but, there's some things you're never going to be great at, right? Like,
right.
I'm 6 feet tall, probably with anything with the best training, the best coaches, the best people around me, from meditative coaches to physical coaches to the best exercise and nutrition program, I would never be a professional basketball player because I don't really have what it takes. You know what I mean? It's just there's no way around that. It's not going to happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, even if I was great by standards of my peers, maybe I even made a junior college, but even college ball, like the level of proficiency you have to have and genetics, that's a lot. That's a lot. So with me, I knew that I feel like I know what I need to get there. I'm very creative, but I know that I need a technical, understanding that will take me to a certain place, and now I need to figure out how to get that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned that your grandfather and your mother were artists as well.
Mm-hmm.
Were they like mentors for you, or did you have any other sources of mentorship that kind of help guide your way through this through the art arena?
Yeah, my grandfather was a very incredible letterer. He did a lettering for Felix the Cat and Prince Valiant, and a lot of the old comic books. He was a sculptor and he was a painter. He was a little bit of a Renaissance man in terms of his artistry.
That's dope. My pop's favorite cartoon was Felix the Cat. That's
okay. Well, there you go. Hey. And that was all my grandfather did, all the lettering for that. So he was a very, very talented letterer. As a painter, he was okay. My mom was also okay. She wasn't great, and she was more of a hobbyist who tried to become a professional painter. So I watched her struggle and try to sell her work and stay up all night because she had to have a day job as a secretary, and her night reality was, just working and painting. And I grew up kind of as a little kid watching my mom paint and then going to the Metropolitan Museum where she literally stood outside the facade and tried to hawk her goods. And I knew early on, this is a business, and this is a hard business at that, because my mom's, not really selling anything.
Right.
So, and she's creative and she was crafty and she made bookcases and designed fashion, but, and eventually went into opening her own business. But it was early on, I saw what a struggle it was. And they were, my grandfather was more gifted and more skilled at his level of artistry than my mom was. But I also knew that my grandfather would even tell me, he was a mentor of mine, but he would always tell me, don't do this as a career. There's nothing for you here.
Oh, man.
Like, it's way too rough. And his best friend at the time was Frankie Frazetta, who, I don't know if you know who that is, but Frankie Frazetta, if you look up Frankie Frazetta, you'll know his work. He was the original, comic book guy of, Conan the Barbarian. He did, very, Barbarella type of voluptuous women with big breasts and big butts. And the men were all Arnold Schwarzenegger, superhero like
early 70s cartoons and
no, he was earlier, but he was a real painter. He wasn't a joke. He was, a lot of people came after him who were whatever, but he was the real deal Holyfield type of artist.
Okay.
So I did have different mentors, and I also had a lot of people kind of try to knock me down and told me that I couldn't do it. And I wasn't as talented as a lot of my peers, because I went to an art high school.
Right.
So there was a lot of kids who were naturally more gifted than I was from a technical level. But I was always as creative, if not more creative in many ways, the ways that I could be heterodox in my thinking.
All right. And that's I'm glad you kind of brought that up, because that kind of leads into the next question is pretty much fears, stepping into this arena. There had to be, some sort, I'm not going to say there had to be, but were there any fears of, inadequacy as an artist, or comparing yourself to that next artist that you kind of look up to, and then looking at your work? Is there anything that you've gone throughout your career that kind of made you, I guess, second guess, making this a career?
many times, especially when I was not getting work. I mean, and it's very easy to question yourself when you're not getting work, or when you go to somebody who you admire and they kind of look at you like, what are you doing? And you're like, well, shit, well, what am I doing? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause if this guy is great and I admire him and he's looking at me going, what are you doing? Then I got to really take a hard look in the mirror and say, what am I doing? And you get very, self-conscious, but you have to have an indomitable spirit.
Right.
And I feel like that's kind of one thing that I always had. I've always had this ability to, persevere in the face of adversity, no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be great. So it's kind of like a New York fuck. It was started out with a little bit of a fuck you energy.
Yeah.
That's what I call it. Like, fuck you, I'm going to make it. I don't care what you say.
That New Yorker
And
bravado.
Yeah, it's arrogance. It's even though I wasn't great, I had to feel like I was in order to continue and persevere. As we're now, I know where I am. I'm much more realistic about everything, and I do it for other reasons of ingenuity or creativity or challenge, or I don't really need the fuck you ether to project me into working hard and getting great.
That was just like the I guess I'm trying to compare it to like a rocket ship. That was the fuck you attitude was like the boosters that got you into the ether,
Yeah.
so that way you could just do you after that.
Yeah, but at the same time, you don't want to be delusional and think that you're at a certain place where you're not, because I encountered that all the time from young artists. They're like, man, I'm the shit. I'm like, bro, you're like a zygote and you will never learn because you already feel like you've arrived. And so you're already stuck. You've already hit a ceiling. You're already done. Like that, with that kind of energy, unless it's somehow helping you out of that, there's no place to go from there. Like the ultimate is when you find someone who's really curious and has an authentic curiosity, what I like to call a holy curiosity, and that person's always going to get better and grow. And somebody who's kind of going, shit, I'm not really there. I need to do this and this and this, and then it'll help me do this. That's the kind of person you have to be, as opposed to like, oh yeah, I'm fucking there, I'm fucking arrived, because that only lasts so long.
Right.
And that's not realistic. Like there's nobody, who's not improving, especially when you're a writer or a musician or an artist. Like when you're an athlete, there's only a certain window, right?
Definitely.
By the time you're 36 as a professional MMA fighter, you're going to be slipping. It's just impossible not to be. It's the nature of your physiology.
Right.
So you can only go up, 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 up. You can get a better IQ. You can have a better understanding. There's perhaps things you can do. We saw with Michael Jordan, the way that he changed his game.
Mm-hmm.
But that really only brought him to about 40. And then we saw a very steep decline. Very steep. But he had that extra little moment where he could pivot and transform his reality to kind of accompany it, right? So there's that thing, but within the intellectual side, which is what I do, my whole life is, in pursuit of understanding nature. And so for me, that's never ending, unless my senses soften and and I break down that way, which is there's that as well, but you have more longevity in what I do to be able to grow. Michelangelo was 81. He said, I'm just beginning to learn how to draw. So that's the answer right there. If that motherfucker's saying I'm just beginning to learn how to draw, then you got to level up and understand that you're nothing but a shitty grain of sand and a speck in this universe.
Right. What was it, Socrates? Or was it the true knowledge is knowing that you know nothing? And you just
exactly
gotta keep absorbing and because like realistically our knowledge in a lifetime is just a drop in a bucket compared to what's really out there. So you always got to be
exactly
open.
We know nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I asked my grandfather when he was 90. I said, "Do you feel any different? Like, what is the answer? Like, what's the secret? What have you learned with all of your wisdom?" He said, "The more, the older I get, the more I realize that how little I know." So it's kind of, I was like, "Huh." Because at that age, I was like, I know everything.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know shit.
Like, I got this.
Yeah. It's funny.
All right.
Yeah, it's just the way it is.
Man, that's what's up. What was that experience? Can you relive that experience when you first sold your very first piece, or you that I guess that eye opening or awakening as an artist? Were you able to actually, get value back, or whatever you would call it, off of something that you've created?
I remember in school I sold a piece to a buyer who was a collector who was collecting in young artists, and he liked my work, and I sold it to him, and he was like, I was like, huh, yeah, maybe I'm gonna be good in this world. I'm pretty good at hustling, and I'm a good artist, and I got a different vision than everybody, and maybe he sees something that I've been seeing.
That's what's up. What is your main? I guess what's your dragon slaying moment, or your Excalibur moment? Where do you feel like you've made it as an artist, where you've actually reached your? I don't want to say peak, because like after talking to you for this couple of minutes, I feel like you still.
Oh yeah.
Still going for it, but is there like something out there that you really want to accomplish as an artist, to where you can say,
yeah,
I've done something that's awesome?
Well, I feel like I've done stuff that's awesome.
Right.
It's not that. It's just that I feel like, my biggest selling piece is my DJ painting, because I did it in 2001 and I've sold 13 million copies. So I'm never going to top the popularity of that. It's just the economics of, or the mechanism of the distribution world in my field. Like, at that time, every single big box retailer had that piece. Now every single big box retailer doesn't collect from individual artists. They collect from, license-free Chinese artists. So it's all free.
Right.
So you'll never I'll never be able to get my work out there. And that's not actually true. I will take that back, because Shepard Fairey got the Obama Hope out there, and that was just another mechanism to catapult that into the public viewing sector. But it is way more difficult now to get a piece in front of everybody, because it's all crowded out there, right?
Right.
So people go, "Oh yeah, the DJ, I've seen that, whatever." And I'm like, "Of course you've seen it, of course." You know what I mean? I've had it on bags, I've had it on, slip mats, I've had it on, in every Target and every Walmart, and I mean, it's just, it's ubiquitous.
Right.
But I don't feel like it's my greatest me. I feel like whatever I'm doing now is better, but it's different. So I don't feel, because the way that we gauge better or brilliance sometimes is popularity, or what it sold for in the in the New York Times or whatever, or someone telling you this is great because it's in an art book, or it's in Jansen or Gardner, some very well-respected art history book. But the reality is, I've really yet to do my greatest works, and I'm kind of like, the piece I just finished is a dance piece. I don't know if you saw it.
No, I haven't seen that. Have you posted it? Or?
Okay. I've been posting it a lot. You follow me on IG?
Yeah,
you do, of course.
Yeah, I follow you on IG.
So tomorrow at 10. Where are you? And what's 909?
909. It's Inland Empire. It's about 30 miles.
So you're in Cali.
Yeah,
okay,
30 miles east from LA.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm in LA. So tomorrow at 10:30, I'm going to be doing the final touches on my painting. So if you should tune in at 10:30 and, make sure you say what's up.
For sure.
And and I'm only doing like 30, 40 minutes. So that'll be the final of the painting. But you'll see, in many ways, this painting is way more sophisticated than my other paintings, because it's all out of my head. There's 500 light sources. It's very complicated. It's probably 1,100 characters altogether. You know what I mean? It's intense. It's super intense. So the DJ is a single figure, a solitary figure in a room. That's that's a single figure. You know, there's no. That's it.
Right.
It's easy. So it's just a different reality and a different time in my life. I didn't have the time also to put into any of my pieces that I did then, because I didn't have kids and I didn't have a whole infrastructure.
Right.
So it was real easy for me to do 14-hour days. Now I'd be lucky if I get 4 hours to paint a day. I want to get it, but I'm a way better artist. So things are, it's a trade-off. Like, I'm faster.
Right.
So
right.
That was a very long-winded way of saying I don't even think I've done my greatest shit, because my greatest shit needs to be a culmination of all of these experiences and skill sets that I've garnered along the way. So, and I don't even know if it's in the hip-hop space. I don't even know.
Hey, I mean, that's wild, because the way you just described the dancer, your piece that you're working right now, it's like I could barely, articulate words, string words together half the time, and just, I can imagine what your brain is like when you're trying to take from what's in there and actually put it on a canvas and make it, a finished art piece. So that's wild to me. Hold on one second. I got mine.
Can you please have the guys pick up all our tables that are individual?
Currently on break at work. I had to turn down my walkie-talkie real quick.
What do you do?
I'm a graphic designer. For my first job, I'm a graphic designer for a financial company, and my second job, I work at the Ontario Convention Center. So it's kind of I'm on break right now, but we're doing a quilt show.
Cool.
Yeah, it's
You're a typical American hustler.
Hey, trying. I love. I have a passion for hip hop. I have a passion for art, and pretty much, like I said, you and a few other artists were a few people who inspired me to pursue this magazine thing, and I've just been having a great time at it so far.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and ask you the final question, because I know you're a busy man, and
Yes,
I
sir.
won't hold you up too long. Where would you like to see just the culture, hip hop and art, or together or individually? What would you like to see that evolve into? You know what I mean?
I have no preference. I feel like it's going to evolve the way it's going to evolve. Hopefully, the aspect of hip hop culture and art will find a synergy with my art. In other words, there'll be a recognition that I was the first artist to paint the narratives of the culture in a high level way, to put it on the map, art historically and otherwise. So I think that would be the goal, is to get a little bit more recognition with my work. So in terms of the evolution, that's going to happen naturally,
Right.
And I have no control over. I don't want to graft it. I just want there to be recognition along the way as to the real roots of it.
Right. That's what's up, man.
Cool.
Oh, happened?
I said, cool, man. I appreciate your call, and I look forward to checking it out.
Awesome. Thank you for giving me a little bit of your time to talk to you.
Absolutely, man.
This issue that I'm currently working on will be out in spring, and I'll definitely I'll keep you posted on
For sure.
on the time frame and everything.
Yeah. And 10:30 tomorrow. Tune in.
Most definitely.
All right, my brother. All right, take it
man.
easy, man.
You
All
too.
right, peace.
Peace.
Bye-bye.